morning, all you beautiful people. It's a bit chilly, isn't it? I know, but I got my t-shirt on because I've been jumping around here like a bit of a mad chicken because it's a very exciting morning, guys. For those of you who have just joined us, welcome to Rooted in Gardening. Folks, this is our second live with our industry leaders and industry experts. And I have to say, like pressure's off me. So all those difficult questions that you got, I watch the panel members now, they're like, so get your questions lined up, guys. We have the most amazing opportunity to be able to talk to 4 of our leading experts in the industry. You will know their names, you will recognize their logos, and you will see the product that they develop themselves, which is available to us. I use it, you use it, and so let's sort this all out. Yes, it's been cold, guys. Man, it's been freezing. Lots of damaging winds, lots of frost, but we have solutions for those, and it's about how we garden and how we adopt. It's not so much as that, as much as you want to like get wrapped up in your blankie and have your hot cup of coffee or hot chocolate, or I don't know, there's some other liquid that you put in. Yeah, but we can't talk about that on this show. Anyway, there's this other liquid that also warms your whole body up. Guys, we got to get out there because for me, winter is an amazing time in the garden. It really is a different awakening, and I get to plant plants in the garden, which I know I can only do now. I know that seasonality, if I don't get it in now, I'm going to have a pretty dull winter garden plus a pretty poor spring garden. So it's all about that planning, and that we're going to share with you today. But before we get going, guys, let me introduce you to our panel of experts. And I'm delighted and overjoyed to have Lawrence with us. Lawrence Bosch is representative sales manager from Atlantic Fertilizers, a national brand that is available at every garden center, hardware store, builders, wherever you go to. And you can pick up a bag of their specifically blended organic fertilizer. Lawrence, I saw you just last week, and now I'm looking at you on a camera, and you are sitting where in jy het 'n lekker jersey on. Introduce yourself to the folks at home.
Great. Good morning, Tanya. Thank you so much. You're welcome to the listeners. Yes, so I'm with Atlantic for a few years now, enjoying the green industry so much and learning every single day. And I just want to say thank you for this platform as well that you've created. Life as Garden has done so much good for us. And we want to tap into this and be able to share the knowledge that we have with the listeners. So yeah, quick in a nutshell, been in the industry for quite a few years now and always learning something new every day. And now with the rest of the panel of experts, I'm sure we're all going to go out of this a little bit more richer and more fulfilled and ready to take on the garden, even if it's so cold.
Absolutely. Listen, this morning I was running around with my cup of coffee, still in my pajamas, checking on the levels of my dam because I'm building a dam, guys. But I'm only going to say this to you. This is a secret. Because I built a dam. It was meant to be a pond. It's turned into a dam. But my other half doesn't know. So anyway, I'm in big trouble. Because I'm trying to finish it before I open gardens next weekend. And dis net 'n groot gat. So, guys, I might need solutions for that as well. Lawrence, welcome. Jan Lubinger, we've got Jan in here. And if he doesn't tell you, I'm going to tell you about his latest hobby. But Jan, it's wonderful to have you on board. Jan is passionate, absolutely passionate about the bags of stuff that we buy as gardeners. Each and every one of us needs this stuff in our gardens. It's compost, it's citrus mix, it's bark nuggets, it is specific soil for bonsais. You've seen a lot of their videos on the platforms. And guys, here we have the man behind all of this product. Jan, welcome to Rooted in Gardening.
Good morning, Tanya. Thank you very much for having us on the show. And yeah, just to give the viewers a bit of background, I started my first company, Farm Kwekerij, which is a wholesale nursery, in 1984. And that was after I completed my studies in horticulture. And then, because of a need for compost for our own business, we started manufacturing compost, good quality organic compost. And some of my customers came to the farm and insisted we bag the product and then sell it in the nurseries, which we eventually started doing. At first, we didn't want to, but the money speaks. So we started bagging compost, and then the product range just kept on growing. And currently, we've got one of the biggest ranges of organic products on the market. All these products have been developed by myself in conjunction with specialized growers, people who grow citrus, for instance, and who grow orchids and who grow bonsai. So we've gone to all the experts and said to them, listen, what is it exactly that you want to, as a perfect mix, what would you like? And we listened to these guys and put together all these fantastic specialized mixes, which we can use in conjunction with all the normal stuff like the bark mulch and compost and lawn dressing and potting soils and so on. So we're very proud to say that we've been in the industry for 41 years now, and we've always been a very loyal supporter of the green industry, being a member of SANA. A couple of years ago, joined SALI, and Life is a Garden, who's doing excellent marketing for our industry as a whole. And without all of this, the information won't be able to get out to the public. And we're very pleased to be a part of it, and I hope I can make a positive contribution today. And then, talking about my latest venture
Yeah,
at
I'm going to ask you, Jan. I'm going to ask you. So, guys, Jan is, besides being a compost and organics fundy, he's a high functioning perfectionist. I can't even get the word out. And he started a new hobby. Tell us quickly. We got a few
Yeah,
seconds.
so on the 17th of January this year, I got the mad idea in my head to start playing the saxophone. Apparently, I wanted to do it all along my whole life and never got to it. And then I went to music school and asked the saxophone teacher there whether he would see his way open to teach me. And obviously, he said yes, because it's another student to him. 4 weeks down the line, I said to him, listen, were you really that confident to teach me at the age of 60? And he said, no, he had his doubts, but luckily the progress that I've made was, not normal. It was actually, we found out that I had a bit of a talent for this. After practicing for 4 months or so, I've done my first two live performances. And people are all astonished to find out that I've only been playing for 4.5 months, So the point is,
Jan,
you're never
Jan,
too
be
old
careful on
to
that live
reach
performance
something.
thing, guys. Watching at home, and for those of you who are jumping on a bit later, I can see a new opener here with the saxophonist
Well,
and compost expert. I think that
you,
could be
you,
quite a
bet,
good opening line. Thank
Tanya,
you, Jan. We're going to jump
you
back
better
to our next guest,
you better
and we'll
book
be
me
with you in
now
two
before I
seconds.
get too expensive, hey?
Right. Good morning, Carrie. Carrie is from the Colourful Group. Actually, guys, if I want to be right, I'm going to call her Dr. Carrie Goodwin. She recently has achieved her doctorate in water conservation and in garden centres specifically. Carrie, it's wonderful to have you on board. You come from a passionate family who really are embedded and always into this wonderful hobby of ours called gardening, and tell us a bit more about Colourful Group.
Okay, so Colourful Splendor, we have two garden centres, one in Craigle Park and one in Honeydew. And like you said, we are just passionate. The people that I work with, the teams, we just love gardening. We want to share, and we really specialize in color. So anything that's colorful in your garden, and I didn't even know, but green is a color too. So all those vegetables, which maybe always don't maybe end up on your plate, but they're in your garden. They should be in your garden. We have lots of those as well. So yeah, I work with wonderful people, and I've been in the industry for a long time. And as you said, I'm really fortunate enough to work with my family as well. So our family's kind of splits. Half of us are in the retails and half are in the wholesale. So my brother and my mum do a lot of growing for Peebles plants, and they supply a whole lot of retails and home stores with color too. So I think we mustn't think, especially at this time of the year, that gardening has to be dull and boring. Because if you go and visit your local garden center, whether it be a hardware or independent, there is just a burst of color in all of them. And this is not only good for us and our souls, but it's also really good for the pollinators. So,
Absolutely.
and I think,
Well
as
said.
everyone said before me, when we talk about gardening, if you're looking for advice and wonderful things to know, Life as a Garden is definitely out there. And we too are very proud members of SANA, and just all that each one of us is doing, even those who are listening to us. Thank you for listening. By you guys participating, we get to learn from each other. And I think gardeners are the best sharers. And we learn so many values from gardening. So I just think I'm so excited to be here and can't wait. I'm going to stop talking because there's so much to talk, and I'm sure the questions are starting to flow in.
Well, thank you, Carrie, and
thank you for that.
It's wonderful to have you on board and part of our panel this morning. And last but not least, my other boyfriend from another lifetime. I do think he's quite a dish, but he's probably not meant to hear that. I hope you put mute. Where's Warwick in charge of the sound? Jimmy! Jimmy is from Melansians, an amazing business, guys. I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with his dad, with Jimmy and his wonderful wife and the amazing team at Melansians. I love their plants, and I love this boy's passion, and I call him my Sian. And he really has grown into this beautiful world called gardening, and most importantly, loves plants. And he's also dabbling in plant breeding now. So, sure, Jimmy, welcome.
That's right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. As Tanya said, green is my blood is not red. It's all green because we're living for plants and just enjoying each and every day. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet so we can get to the questions. I'm from Melansians, like Tanya said. It's a family business, 4th generation, and we've been in the business since 1913. So it's basically 112 years this year. So we're ready for you to get all the questions. And thank you for listening today. And we hope that you can get your gardens pretty and fantastic for the season to come.
Donkey baie, Jimmy. Right, guys. We're going to jump straight in, and I'm going to start out with a couple of comments on, and I'm going to jump to each and every one of our panel, because we speak about this dreariness of winter, or is it, is my plants going to frost? Are they going to die? What color can I use? Or what are my favorite plants? What should I be planting? And I'm going to touch on the following on feeding. Should we be feeding? Because there's some stories out there that, shouldn't be feeding plants in winter. I'm not too sure about that. We're going to check in with Lawrence just now and find out about that. And I want to find out what plants are your top favorite. So I'm going to jump straight into Jimmy. Jimmy, you've got a lovely hedge that's happening behind you there. Jong, ek wil dit hê, want dit is lank. What have you got going on behind you there?
Yeah, so behind me is the fantastic Nandina Dragon Flame. So I think, Tanya, the thing now is nobody wants to see we're living in such smaller apartments and complexes these days, and we don't want to see our neighbor the whole time. So that's why we have the Nandina Dragon Flame. It's really amazing. It's a larger Nandina, really coloring fantastic, all this nice fiery red color. And then as the new season is coming, it's going a little bit greener, but it always has this tinge of red. So Nandina Dragonflame is really the one to have privacy, but also put it in the back of your garden there where you want a little bit of height or a little bit of a feature plant. Nandina Dragonflame is the answer for you.
Now, Jimmy, just help me out here. There are many different types of Nandinas. You know, we get the short little pygmy, which is the little guy. This is the domestica, which is actually one of the taller ones. So it stays quite narrow. Is that right?
Yes, Tanya. So it stays narrow. So it's basically like a pillar or column, you can basically say. And so you can plant it quite close to each other, whereas the other Nandinas like Obsession and Blush Pink and Pygmy is much smaller type of things. The other name also for you guys out there, the other name for Nandina is the Heavenly Bamboo. So it's really in all different types of gardens. You can plant it in full sun and you can plant it also semi-shade to full shade. So it can go anywhere in the garden. So if you want that color effect.
That's an important factor, that plant can grow in sun, can grow in semi-shade or in full shade, and it copes with the frost. In fact, the more frost it gets, the redder it becomes.
Yeah. And so that's that one plant that you need in your arsenal to put it out there, because it can go anywhere in the garden. There's no right or wrong place. It can go all over. And like you said, the more frost it gets, the more cool it gets, the more fiery red the color is getting.
Jimmy, there's another name for that plant. And you know, my brain works in terrible pictures, actually. But on the far side, I think I'm possibly ADHD. If my mother was alive, she would hit me over the head right now with something. But the other name for the Nandina, besides the Heavenly Bamboo, is also called the prostitute plant. And I'm going to tell you why. Because back in the old days, back in Tukasadar, where the ladies of the night would want to advertise their business, which we're not going to go into, they would then pick stems of the Nandina, which is red. The Nandina stems are red, and they would tie them together in a little bundle and hang them outside their doors. And that would be an indication, much like barbers have that twirly red thing. The Nandinas were used for other heavenly activities.
So I will not promote these now in my office.
Oh, Jimmy, thank you. Sorry, guys, about that, but I just couldn't help myself. Carrie, let's jump to you. Let's talk about some favorite winter plants.
Okay, so one of my favorite for winter is actually, if I go for color, I love the pansies. The pansies just fill my heart. And I wanted not similar to Nandina at all, but I like the fact that a lot of our plants, I always say, they can't be just beautiful. Just like us as humans, we can't only be beautiful, we have to be beautiful and sporty and smart and all these other things. Our plants have to have lots of beneficial properties as well. And I love pansies because the flowers are edible. They also tell us
look
how
at
much colder
those,
it's
Terry,
getting.
in the screen there. I mean, we've got a beautiful bed of pansies there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, who can say that winter is dull? I mean, what rock are you living under?
So, and I think pansies, they love the full sun, but if you plant them under deciduous trees, then they will actually last well into the summer. So they'll just keep going until it gets really, really hot. So, in the summer, they like a semi-shade place, winter, nice full sun. I also think what's wonderful about the pansies is it reminds us that we actually have to go out into our garden. Because as soon as the flowers are finished, if you deadhead them, they keep flowering onwards and onwards and onwards. So it does remind us, even though we might want to curl up inside and sip that delicious hot chocolate or coffee, go out and enjoy the sunshine, get the natural vitamin D from being in your garden, and just spend a few minutes each day deadheading your pansies. The therapeutic reward that comes from that will be second to none. So I think,
Terry,
wow,
I have a firm favorite activity, and generally, and I don't actually have my cell phone with me now, but do you know when you're making phone calls? I don't know. I generally walk. I can't stay in one place on the telephone. I actually don't know how I used to talk before when there was a cable attached to it. But what I do is, and there are always violas and pansies in the garden, and it's one of my favorite activities to walk around while I'm on the phone, and all I'm doing is deadheading, because I'm achieving two things at the same time. And remember, when we deadhead, guys, we are removing the stem, okay, and the spent flower. Not just grab it like this and pull it off. That's not deadheading. Do you see that stem that's left there? That must get removed, okay? So go down, thumb and forefinger, in you get, and it's literally just a nip and away you go. So multitasking at its best. I'm going to jump to Lawrence quickly. Lawrence, we know that things need food. Our pansies, violas, our nandinas, in order to be able to perform at their best. Now, I know that you've got quite a few products on your kind of arsenal there, from fruit and flower, bio ocean, all purpose, and then the root builder. Now, you know what happens? We go into a garden center, and there's just like rows and rows of stuff, and I'm like, do you know, it's like me going into one of those the pharmacies, you know, those big chain store pharmacies. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever walked down that health and fitness aisle? I mean, seriously, have you seen all the additives and vitamins and collagen and, I don't know, protein and this? I could buy a whole lot of stuff that could possibly kill me. And likewise, I guess the same for our gardens. When customers walk in and they see this whole wall of different fertilizers and they're like, what do I buy? What do I get? So Lawrence, help us out here, buddy.
Well, it's a very interesting topic. So I'd like to change the perspective how we look at fertilizers a little bit. So firstly, fertilizers are meant to feed plants, but we need to know what plants need. So interestingly enough, plants need 18 different nutrients to survive. 15 of them comes from the soil. So our whole approach at Atlantic is, well, let's replenish those 15 nutrients that you need in the soil. So the basic ingredients are there, the building blocks that all the plants need to strengthen themselves and to build and grow is present in the soil. So when it comes to looking at fertilizers, the idea that I want to put forward is kind of, think of organic as a healthy plate of food. When you eat a healthy plate of food, your body knows exactly what to do with everything. And think of chemical fertilizers kind of like your medicine. It's an imitation of food. It's something that we've created to duplicate what nature's been doing. So that's kind of the approach that I want to have a look at. Firstly, that organic is environmentally friendly. It's got loaded with so much more nutrients and it's bioavailable. Whereas your chemicals, it works for a lot quicker and it's made for specific results. So it's fiddled. The recipe has kind of been fiddled with to do different type of things. So when it comes to feeding plants, ideally we want to start by putting everything in the soil that all plants need. Once that's present, the plant can then grow and decide what it needs to do. And then if we want to help it, for example, a little bit greener leaves or a little bit bigger blooms, then we can incorporate some of the medicine to help achieve that. But we all, same as people, we can't survive on just medicine alone. We need that healthy plate of food. So let's look at fertilizer where we're rather putting back what the soil needs, and then the soil looks after the plants. So that's kind of where we're going with this.
Okay, so we're going to feed the soil, and then the plants will take up the nutrition that they need. This little punnet of violas, which after this live is going to be ending up in my garden, what should I be doing to it? Lawrence, give me the lowdown.
Well, when planting, first thing we want to do is use something to help develop the roots. So we've got a product called the BioRock Root Builder, which has been enriched with sedimentary soft rock phosphates, which is not appealing to dogs. That's one of the great things about it. We want to be as pet and child friendly as possible. But when you're using this product, the BioRock, you are adding the phosphates, which helps the root development. One of the first things we want to do when we transplant or plant plants is get those roots nice and stretched out so they can start absorbing more of the nutrients in the soil. And then with the phosphate, we also have 13 other nutrients that supplies the product, the plant with all of those little goodness that it needs. So when planting, we definitely want to get those roots nice and stretched out. And then we're going to look at something different later on in the growing phase of the plant. But first things first, get those roots as healthy as possible, because that's the primary way that plants take up nutrients.
Roger. Okay. I've got a question. Thank you very much, Lawrence. I've got a question that's come through. And Jan, I'm going to go specifically to you because I know that, Mason, if you can just have a look here, this is a citrus mix, guys, and this has been specifically formulated for citrus and pots, which is going to give them really that good start that they're going to need. And in terms of the consistency of the makeup of this product. So we've got a question here. So Adele Stander, good morning and welcome. Adele has a citrus plant struggling with a bit of growth. What can I use to help the growth and fruit set? So I think this is going to be a question part for Jan, and then part I'm gonna jump to Lawrence. Maybe I think you can help me out here.
Okay, Tanya. Yes. Firstly, citrus most needs fairly high nitrogen soil to grow in. Because it's got lots and lots of green leaves, and then obviously for the flowering part, you need a high potassium fertilizer. And I think Lawrence will be able to make a good suggestion on which one of their products to use for the flowering. If we come back to our citrus mix, that's especially been designed for citrus trees that you're going to plant into a pot. And we had a huge inquiry for a ready-to-use mix, something that you can use straight from the bag. Like we've heard earlier today, a lot of people move into smaller places, townhouses and maybe even an apartment where they might have a small stoop where they can put 1 or 2 pots and have some plants in those pots. And, citrus lends it very well to being grown in a pot and almost kept to a large bonsai, which will still yield fruit. And we've developed this mix together with a grower in the Cape who specializes in citrus. And, we asked him exactly what he uses in his mix, and asked him if we would have any problem if we created a similar mix like that and sell it to the public in bags. And our suggestion was, accepted with open arms. And we developed this product and added some organic fertilizer to the mix, which will sustain the plant's growth for the first 12 weeks. So after 12 weeks of using this mixture, then obviously you need to add more fertilizer to the plant to sustain healthy plant growth. And like I've mentioned, if you want to transplant your citrus tree into a bigger pot or from a bag into a pot after you bought it from a nursery, you can actually use this mix as is. You don't need to add anything to it. So we've gone through all the trouble putting all the right materials into the mixture and also adding the fertilizer for you so that there's no confusion, when you need to plant the plant.
I like that. All right. And Jan, we've actually, we got gifted a citrus plant, and it's just outside the garage here, and it's in your citrus mix. So I'm waiting to see, and I'm so far so good. Everything's looking amazing. So yeah, kudos to the citrus mix. But you mentioned the fertilizing, and I'm going to jump over to Lawrence here. Lawrence, talk to me about citrus. They specifically timed. We know that they should be doing their thing, but what can we use to improve the fruiting?
Oh, great. Yes, so as Jan mentioned, citrus, very unique plant, very interesting. Because they are heavy feeders, they tend to consume quite a lot of nitrogen and potassium during their growing phase. Because if you have a look at the citrus tree, it doesn't have 1 or 2 leaves, it's covered in leaves. And the more leaves there is, the more factories there are. And if we've got those factories, all those processes run much more smoothly. So we want something to help promote a lot of leaves. And then once the plant is starting to take up all of these nutrients, it then moves over to the flowering phase. And there's where potassium is much, much more important for the flower and fruit formation. So when regarding the question from the customer or the client, Citrus will normally drop some of its flowers as it grows. It's thinning. So it decides what is the reserves that it have and how much can it allocate to growing the fruits. And according to that, it will determine how many fruits is being carried. So boron, for example, one of the micronutrients, which is very important for citrus specifically, needs to be present to help with those extended growing phases or blooms. So yes, when we're looking at a product, specifically in the growing phase, high in nitrogen, high in potassium, that's what we're going to aim for to get the most out of that plant during its phase. And when it's going into the resting phase, we want to tap off. We don't want to add so much nitrogen and potassium, because as we need to rest, plants also need to rest. And that's why we form different processes or different cycles of fertilizers for the citrus as it grows. Our winning combination, which I can share, is between the flower and fruit, which is high in nitrogen and potassium, and then the bio-ocean in the resting phase. That works perfectly, and it's a great combination.
Okay. I was wondering if you were going to be a bit shy there and not actually tell Adele what to use there. So we've got it, guys. We're going to use the fruit and flower, and then resting phase, and we're going to go into the bio-ocean. Thank you very, very much, Lawrence. Right. Jimmy, this is for you, because I see you've got a beautiful alvein that's popping out there. Yickles, tickles, I want that for my garden.
Beautiful.
What is that beauty?
So this one it's a hybridized aloe. So it's not your normal felt aloe that you get in the veld. So this is a hybridized aloe, and this one is called Aloe Fire Chief. So it's a medium-sized aloe, and it's multi-heading. So it basically puts each and every season it puts new and new heads. And then it will have, on a plant like this, it's basically a 20-liter plant. And on this plant we have 7 flowers. The nice thing about hybridized aloes is the aloes is flowering for much longer time of the year. And it's also reblooming, whereas normal flowers in the aloes in the veld is only flowering for basically 2 months in winter time, where Aloe Fire Chief is already starting in April, and then it's flowering. Its main season is then in June, and then it stops flowering, and then it will reflower in August and September again. So that means you can enjoy the plant for so much longer in your garden. So Aloe Fire Chief is that really fantastic hybridized aloe.
So I'm going to get a double flowering out of that aloe.
Yep. So it means you can enjoy your garden so much more.
That's wicked, wicked, wicked. Now, I've got a question from Christine. If we can pull Christine's question up, please. And this is going to be for you, Jimmy. Christine's aloes, a kendi ding. But I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to give it to Jimmy rather. My aloes get weird growths and bumps on them. What should I do?
Yeah, so Christine, that is the aloe mite that's biting it. And when the aloe mite is biting it, it's basically setting over to aloe cancer. So there where all the bad stuff is going in, and then it makes like a cancerous knob. So the way to treat that is we take Koinor. That is the best. I prefer that. So you drench the plant with Koinor. So it's a systemic pesticide that is then in the plant. So that when that mite is biting, it's not biting through, and the mite is then being killed. And then the other thing is also always remember, is plants that does not have enough food is always much more susceptible towards any diseases and any pests and things like that. So make sure that you feed your aloes as well. They are, Tanya, I think that is a big thing that everyone is always thinking, well, aloes is there in flowering in the mountain areas. So it's quite a hardy plant and it's water-wise as well. But aloes is also needing that fertilizer. So if you feed your aloe, then the immune system will be much better. But for that specific aloe mite, you have to use Koinor.
Thank you, Jimmy. And Carrie, I'm sure that you get lots of people coming into the garden centre showing you the strange growth on the aloes. Do you suggest that do we cut this off? Do we, because I have a ritual at home, but I'm very interested in hearing your opinion on this.
It is definitely something that you actually have to cut off, unfortunately, because it can spread. Even though the aloe mite has started the damage, it just seems to grow bigger and bigger and becomes more and more unsightly. So actually the best thing is to get a really nice sharp blade. Make sure your blade is clean when you cut it, and just do a clean break to cut out the cancer. We sometimes then use a sulfur-based product to spray over the wound to make sure that the wound itself is actually going to be clean, and pests aren't going to come and infect it, or fungus anymore, once you've cut out the aloe cancer.
Okay. And then Jimmy mentioned Koinor. Koinor is a systemic, guys. So when when you read the instructions, which of course you all read the instructions very carefully on the packets, on the boxes that you buy, it will tell you to dilute it into a certain amount of water. Now, unlike traditional insecticides where you would get a spray bottle and you would actually spray it on, this you actually put in a watering can and pour it around, almost like you're watering it. Carrie, do you have any other solutions on systemics, or on what customers could use if they've got this problem?
Sorry, Tanya, I got a little bit lost there. Our signal was a bit poor, but it was to do with drenching of the products. I think that's what you were talking about.
Are there any other products that you would suggest or give as options? We spoke about Koinor.
Okay. Yeah, so you can use Plant Protector as well. That's effector-based product. Koinor is a agro-based product, and Protec has a product, I think that's called Complete. So all of those are systemic, and ours, like Jimmy was saying, it sits inside the plant. It's almost like you're giving the plant a drip, and it protects the plants from the inside, which is really, really important. And you don't have to give it then as frequently as you might give a contact spray, which would then kill the insects in a different manner.
So, guys, for those of you at home that are watching, we use this on various plants in the garden, purely from a protection, as we say, as the one product says. It's called Plant Protector, because the other thing that these products also help with is that terrible Amaryllis clivia worm thing that comes along, and you know, you walk past your clivias one day and they're looking fine. You walk past the next day and there's this thing. And the great thing is, because you know, I don't see it. So we treat our clivias the same way that Jimmy and Carrie are suggesting that you treat your aloes, with the same product. And so when those moths have laid their eggs, when those eggs hatch, they take the first chomp out of my clivia, and they know who the boss is. You know what I'm saying? Right. Guys, we've got some more questions going on here. Let's have a look. Ooh, Jan, this one's for you. This comes from Tanya Stapelberg, and she's asking, hi, Jan, what is the pH of your carnivorous plant mix? And I'm just going to check here if I've actually got one. I think Isolde is running to get one. Talk us through this, Jan.
Okay, Tanya, yeah, I was in my wife's retail nursery just this morning, and I had to do a selection of the smaller packets, and I looked at the carnivorous mix and I thought, okay, it's the wrong time of the year to try and promote this. But yeah, generally we try and keep the mixture of the carnivorous mix below 6, as most carnivorous plants are acid-loving plants. And, you know, with the main ingredient being Canadian peat that we use in the mix, that ensures that the pH is on the acidic side of the scale. You know, too many people place too much emphasis on pH. You know, it's not that vitally important. You know, certain plants prefer certain pH soils, but most plants can grow in soil with a pH anything from 6 to 8. A plant will be very happy to grow in that. It's only like the carnivorous plants, they prefer a pH that's a little bit lower. So the pH of that mix is always below 6.
You know, Jan, Isolde grows a lot of carnivorous plants, and you know, they don't require too much of something. So like a big 30 dm bag is not going to really be necessary. But here we've got the carnivorous mix, and I know that this is when I walk into her little potting shed there, daar's oorals, te goed oorals. But I know she's got lots of these little bags because she doesn't have to use that much. The pic that actually came up, can we pull that pic up again there? That's actually her carnivorous plants in her orchid house. She really has kind of perfected it. And you'd be pleased to know, Jan, that happens to be because of a bit of this stuff here. So, yeah, good job. So I hope that answers the question. Safe to use, good to use, well draining, most importantly. Right. Abby, I'm going to go to your question. And Lawrence, I'm going to jump between you and probably... let me have a look here. So, Abby's question is, my garden leaves turn yellow. I don't know what you're holding. Oh, your gardenia. Oh, my garden leaves. I was wondering. That's a bit like saying my entire garden is poor. Help me. Okay, so the gardenia leaves are turning yellow with green veins. Oh, here's a question. In fact, this is going to hit all of you guys. So I'm going to first start with Carrie. Carrie, why do gardenia leaves turn yellow?
Oh, the plant is so hungry. Please feed me. Please feed me.
Very
that would be
good.
the quickest answer.
Absolutely. And then there's another story about gardenias, which I know Jan is going to help us with. Jan, talk to me about gardenias and pH.
All right, so Tanya, pH, gardenia is another plant which is very sensitive to pH of the soil, and it's also a plant that loves acidic soil. And we also have a product especially for that, and that is acid compost, which can be applied around plants like gardenias, for instance. And the best is actually to do the soil preparation before you plant those plants, and then try and dig out all the soil in that bed and fill it with the acid compost only. You can plant straight into that, and that will automatically help with the greening of the leaves of those plants. So if the pH is not correct, the nutrients might not be available to the plant. And then something Lawrence will probably have more info on is maybe an iron deficiency can cause the same problem, and then definitely a shortage of nitrogen in the soil.
Very, very good. Thank you, Jan, for that. And that is pH, but it is more importantly about mulching. So, guys, if you have got your gardenias in the ground already, and I know you're not going to be too keen to like lift the whole thing up and then replace it. If it's in a pot, easy to do. Plant it in with some acid compost. But if you are dealing with a plant that is in the garden already, I would put a lovely thick layer of acid compost around it. And then we're going to jump to Jimmy, because Jimmy, there are a couple of quirky things about gardenias and what they like and what they don't like being fed. And I'm sure, being the grower, you know these quirky things, and unfortunately we only learn this through trial and error.
Yeah, that is true, Tanya. So a gardenia is very, very similar to a camellia and an azalea. So all of those plants is really, we call them and we classify them as acid-loving plants. So here in the nursery, we will only plant them and produce them in already acid soil. So we get our acid soil in bulk from Jan from Bak Unlimited, and we plant directly into that. So that means the pH is already quite low. And then if a gardenia gets that yellowish leaves, we know every single time it's mainly iron. So then we feed them extra with iron. So iron can be fed as a spray, so the leaves can take it up. But the best is to drench it in the soil so the roots can take it up. And then the other thing with a gardenia is very susceptible to root diseases. So make sure that you don't overwater your gardenia. So the acid compost that we plant in has already quite a lot of sand in, type of a river sand, and that helps to get all the water out to drain much quicker. So make sure that your gardenia is not planted in very clay soil, because clay soil, it holds too much water, and then all of that bad root diseases is starting to happen. So yeah, and it's basically just like the hydrangeas as well. Hydrangea is also indicating to you if your soil is more acidic or whatever, because you get a pink hydrangea and a blue hydrangea is basically the same plant. The coloring is just how acid or how alkaline your soil is. So
and Jimmy, you touched on something really important there, which I want to come back to, and that's the watering. You know, we see a plant and it's got some yellow leaves and ons dink, oh nee, die arme ding, jy soek nog water. And then we give more water. And then 2 days later, it's dropped more leaves. And you're like, oh, it needs more. So we give it more. We love killing things with kindness. So I think you touched on a really good point there. And if we can just jump across here, Mason, just come across with me here. I don't have a gardenia, but I do have a camellia. And you'll notice that the leaves, folks, for those of you that are watching, look at the leaf here. It's almost quite waxy. It's quite waxy, quite a tough leaf, all right? And gardenias are very, very similar. And this structure of a leaf tells us that it needs a well-drained soil. It's almost nature's indicator. So anything with this kind of waxy leaf, and I would talk about coprosmas there, the marble chips, well-drained soil. If they have wet feet, seriously unhappy. So this is your chameleon. I mean, look at this guy in flower, looking amazing. Yeah, more to come. More to come are the beautiful gardenias. So, Jimmy, I think you brought up a really good point there about overwatering. And, you know, rather under, guys, than overwatering. I'm going to jump to Lawrence. Please talk to us about feeding of this. What's going to be like? What do I... Help me with the quickest, simplest way. You know, we're all impatient.
I wish there was a quick, simple way, but it all comes back to basics. If the basics is available, the plant can do what it needs to do. In the previous case, there was certainly an iron deficiency, but if we make sure that all of the micronutrients are there, because they're needed in very different volumes during different growth phases. So rather have them present and make sure they're there. So foundations is the most important thing that we can start with. So I would recommend looking at something that looks after the macros and the micros. If you get some humic and fulvic acid in there, pH balance is also perfect. But gardening the right way is a long process. Once you have the basics in place, the rest will fall into as it should be. I'll put it that way.
Okay, so can we say a handful or two of BioOcean around the plant, into the drip zone, and you don't have to water it in because it's not going to burn the plant because it is organic. Are we on the right track?
We're on the right track. So when you fertilize as well, most people think that the closer to the stem or the base, the better the absorption will be. That's not the case. Your roots are spread out as the canopy of the plant as well. So you want to spread it out evenly and then get as much of the surface areas covered. But definitely a hand or two of the BioOcean, brilliant to work. It's got some kelp in it for the stress regulation. Going into this time of the year where it becomes slightly colder as well, we want to help plants as much as possible to handle those stresses. But yes, you can work with the BioOcean without worrying about the water, because our product is not water dependent. It just breaks out quicker when it's faster when the water is applied or moisture is applied. But the nice thing about it is, it will be available in the soil for up to 3 months, if not longer. So that's what we want to go for, giving the plant the right
and
things.
we know we're going to get those 13 of the 15 elements in there. Well, good job. Thank you very much. I've got a question here from Nora. Nora, we've got a few, and guys, we've got a few more questions here, so I want to whip through these. We've got 10 minutes left, so we want to make sure let's get these answers to our viewers. Nora asks, good morning, my arum lily doesn't flower. Please help. Lots of leaves, but no flowers. Carrie, talk to us.
Oh my goodness. If your arum's lily, it's probably not in the right place. Maybe getting a little bit too much shade, and your soil would probably definitely need some potassium to help boost that flowering, because that's what potassium is going to do.
Okay, good answer. So, Lawrence, help us out with feeding here. And also remember, guys, arum lilies do go through phases of good growth and then just kind of sitting in the garden and actually not doing much. And you like talk to them and say, come on, guys, it's time to join the party. So in terms of feeding, what should we be looking at there?
So feeding when it's starting to produce, when it's forming the flowers, then definitely, as Carrie mentioned, something with a bit more potassium to help with that. And when it's going into the rest phase, we want to tap off on the potassium. So I would recommend having a look at something that's high in potassium. That will be a great starting point.
Jimmy, give me a regmaker for these arum lilies.
So arum lilies is feeding. Make sure that you feed them. They are really, really, really hungry plants, because we always say you must go and check where are they native from. So native, if you look at this time of year, they all in flower there in Cape Town in the wetland areas. The wetland areas is always creating their own fertilizer. That's why it's flowering so much. So if you have it in the garden or in a pot and they're not in their native area, you have to feed them. So guys, make sure every 4 to 6 weeks you give them enough feeding. And then also debudding them so they're not setting seed. Because if a plant is setting seed, it's focusing all its energy to the seed pods and not making more flowers. So if a plant has stopped to flower, just debud them so you make sure they're not seeding and they can push more flowers.
Great advice there. And I'm going to jump in for Jan here because we've got arum lilies under around a bird bath. Look, although it's near the bird bath, these guys, they don't get so much water. There isn't an irrigation system there, so I've got to make sure that they stay well mulched. We use this over here, besides as using also some natural products, a bark nugget mulch, which can be used around the plants. And Jan, give me quickly 3 reasons why we should mulch.
Yeah, Tanya, mulching is very important. You know, we live in a country where we get very little rainfall. You know, in the past couple of months, you wouldn't say so, but in general, you know, we don't get that much rain. And obviously, the first very important point is water retention. And then also a bit of weed suppression, you know. So if you mulch thickly enough, then the weeds are struggling to grow, and whatever seeds gets blown in or carried in by the birds don't have a good chance of germinating because the mulch is very loose. Obviously, you know, we mulch for the aesthetic value of it. Mulch looks nice. Sometimes it looks much nicer than just the bare soil. And then also it helps with regulating the soil temperature. So you can look at it as a blanket that you put on top of your soil. And, you know, like Jimmy mentioned, you know, the more cold your nandinas get, the darker the color, the more vivid the color. But you want to keep your root zone protected at all time, you know. So you can get the fluctuation of the soil temperature to a lesser extent. That's always better for the plant. And then, you know, one of the other things that we must not overlook is it also creates habitat for all the smaller creatures in your garden. You know, if you think of things like lizards and geckos and all of that, it provides a perfect hiding place for them. And especially when it's winter and it's cold, they go into hibernation, you know, and they need a place to hide. And the mulch is loose enough for them to crawl under and protect them from the cold.
Ah, no, I like that, Jan. There's 3-4 good reasons to mulch, and certainly around the arum lilies as well. Carrie, I've got a question for you from Nora. What can I spray my hibiscus for lice? I imagine it's an aphid or if it's a mealybug or something, which will not kill the bees and the lizards.
Yeah. So you would have to use a product like BioNeem and neem oil. But we would always suggest that you try not spray when any plant, even like our aloes, our hibiscus, don't spray them when they're flowering, because that's when you are going to have the bees around. And again, if you're going to spray, try not to spray when the bees are there. So if you did have to spray, rather spray in the afternoons, maybe at like 4 or 5 o'clock when the bees have already returned to their hives. But as I say, the bioneem is a really nice organic pesticide that will actually get rid of your aphids or your mealybugs, those type of things, which could be affecting your hibiscus.
And there's some good points there. Really, really good advice, Carrie. Spray in the afternoon when the bees have gone home. Spray the affected area, not the whole plant. Avoid the flowers, guys. Bioneem works. Oleum also works. And, you know, if you really want to get down to it, you can take your thumb and your forefinger and you can run it down the stems and you can pop all those little aphids and those little ugly little critters over there. Perfect. Yeah, Jimmy, I'm going to go to you with this question. This is from Yandi. Can I grow anything indoors during winter with natural or artificial light?
Yandi, yes, for sure you can do that. It's in winter time. So basically what we do here on the farm is we put all the things under frost cover. So the bad thing about frost cover is it's not getting all of the light that it needs to get. So if you put it inside and you have it next to a nice window, it will be beneficial for the plant. And if you have artificial light, if you look on YouTube and all over, the rest of the world is very, very far in ahead of us with artificial light. So anything that you can grow outside, you can grow inside in winter. It's just depending on the light. And always make sure that sometimes your living room is quite cold or your area is quite cold. And when you put it at nighttime close to a window, then it also gets very cold. Because remember, if you feel early morning against the window, it can get really, really cold and your hand is almost freezing. So if you put the plant there, the plant will also freeze. So make sure that at nighttime, you just take it a little bit away from the window, and then in daytime, you can put it back to heat up again.
Jimmy, I love that. Thank you very much. And you know, as well, there are other things that we can grow indoors if we don't have an outside garden. And some of those are things like these little microgreens. Guys, if you've never tried growing microgreens, come on. I mean, it's a little tray, some seeds. It's literally watch them grow. I mean, we've been growing microgreens on the kitchen counter. Literally, I go to bed and I say goodnight to them. And I wake up the next morning and they've had a serious party because they have grown and literally grown overnight. So microgreens are really a cool option, not only that you can use them, but you've also got something that's growing inside. And if you've got enough light, as Jimmy was saying, near a windowsill, where you're getting at least 5 hours of sun, whether it's that morning sun or the afternoon sun, remember the little violas or pansies that we spoke about earlier in pots would be absolutely wonderful. So yeah, there are many, many options, but of course, the best advice I can give you is pop along to your local garden center, your local Life is a Garden center. And how on earth do you know what it is and how to find it? Guys, all you have to do is pop onto the Life is a Garden website. So Life is a Garden, and you'll click on the button that says find a garden center near me. Plus, they've got some really cool videos that will expand on everything that we've spoken about here on the YouTube channel to inspire and educate you guys and make you better gardeners. Closing comments from our panel, guys. Let's whip around. Carrie, let's start with you.
I think plant not only for yourself, but plant for the environment, your friends, and all those little bees, bugs, butterflies, birds, lizards, geckos that we spoke about. Gardening is for everybody, and just enjoy it.
And what better way than when going to visit someone else, instead of having to take a box of chocolates, you can take a bunch of fresh herbs that you've grown in your garden, wrap it with a bit of hessian or a bit of string, and take that as a gift. Way better than the chocolates, guys. Lawrence, let's jump to you.
All I want to say, gardening with nature is much easier than gardening against nature. So the more natural, more organic, the better.
True story. You know, at the end of the day, I think most of us are trying to emulate a picture in our heads of the picture that we want, of the beauty that we want, of the dream. And we talk about dream gardens and we talk about the dream of a beautiful garden. And that's exactly what you're hitting on there, is that we want it to be that picture paradise. And we do that by working with nature, not against it. Jan, closing comments from you, please.
Yeah, Tanya, I think, composting frequently, and don't forget to mulch, save some water. It's a valuable resource that we have in our country, and we all need to make our contribution. And by putting compost into your soil, you can add to the water holding capacity of the soil. And by mulching, you can stop evaporation of that valuable water.
100%. Guys, every opportunity we have, put the compost on. Every time you see a bit of naked soil, add on the mulch. We know there's a naked gardening day, but naked soil gardening is a never day. Jimmy, last thoughts from you, please.
Guys, from my side, thank you so much for you being gardeners. We love you all because that means we can live out our passion and we can just grow more and more fantastic and beautiful plants. And remember, a living gift is a gift that keeps on giving. If you take a plant to someone, it's that plant with a story that is always there and flowering and gives so much hope and so much enjoyability. And when you give someone a bunch of flowers, in 4 or 5 days' time, it will wilt and it will go dead and it will end in the dustbin. So give a gift that keeps on giving. And remember, there is no wrong way of gardening. So gardening has to be fun. It has to be fabulous. And if you have any questions, please just pop us a question on Life is a Garden and we'll get back to you. Guys, enjoy it. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Jimmy, thank you. Beautifully said. And you know what? That thing about giving someone a plant, I actually call the plant then after the person that gave it to me. So I have plants in the garden. One's called Albert, one's called Mary, one called this one. And people want to know, that's a very interesting botanical name. I say, yeah, that came from the person who gave it to me. And so they get a personality. Guys, my panel of experts, thank you very, very much for your time. To you guys at home that have joined us and have been watching, thank you. I've certainly learned a few things this morning, and I hope that you have too. All that's left to say is stay warm, take care of you and yours, and happy gardening. Till next time.